All right, friends, it's time to give you loyal listeners a discount on protein powder. You may or may not know, but I launched my very first protein powder 2 years ago. It's a grass-fed beef isolate with only 3 ingredients: grass-fed beef, either organic cacao or organic vanilla, and organic monk fruit. Now, if you don't want any of the added flavor and sweeteners, you can also just get unflavored. And no matter what flavor you choose, you're getting over 23 grams of protein per scoop, which is going to keep you full and satisfied between meals. I love starting my day with a Fab4 smoothie and breaking my fast with that much protein. It makes a serious difference in my cravings and blood sugar balance the rest of the day, and I've seen it with my clients as well. Now, I never thought I'd own a product company, but when I got pregnant with Sebastian, I realized the majority of protein powders were chemically extracted or enzymatically extracted, and I wanted to use heat and water only. I wanted minimal ingredients because we don't need those emulsifiers, fillers, or added vitamins, minerals, and probiotics. All of those additions increase the chances that it's not going to work for your body, whether it be bloating, digestion issues. I just wanted pure, clean protein to keep you full and satisfied so you could build the most delicious Fab4 smoothie. And I have to say, I'm pretty proud of the flavor. If you take a look at our reviews on Amazon, you'll see 5-star reviews for flavor. And that is key, because if you don't love your Fab4 smoothie and you don't love drinking your protein powder, you're not going to do it. It won't become a habit, and it's consistency that outpaces everything. So if you're here and you're listening and you want to give our protein powder a try, use the code podcast5 for $5 off your order. And let me know if you love it. My favorite ways to apply this protein powder is in my Fab4 smoothie, making freezer fudge, making chocolate milk, making hot chocolate, and throwing the unflavored into all my kids' baked goods. So let me know how you use it. Let me know if you love it, and share this podcast deal with your friends. MaryRuth Ghiyam is a certified health educator, nutritional consultant, and culinary chef. She's also responsible for pulling her family out of close to $1 million worth of debt with her business, MaryRuth Organics. After the passing of her brother and father and her mother's diagnosis of 2 benign brain tumors, she traveled the country to learn about the body's path to heal itself and stumbled upon what she termed the MaryRuth method. Her program took off, gaining hundreds of followers in just 1 year, and eventually led her to create wholesome supplements of her family, friends, and fans of MaryRuth method. This grew into MaryRuth Organics, and the business has been flourishing ever since. This month, MaryRuth is releasing a new book, Liquids Till Lunch, where she shares small habits that can be revolutionary for health and well-being. MaryRuth, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Kelly. So great to see you. Thank you again for having me.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm so excited. I when I learned of your story and what you have been through, brain tumors to losing your father at such a young age, and just like your resilient story, it really spoke to me. And to build this amazing wellness brand on the back end of such diversity, I had to tell your story. So I'm just so excited that you're willing to be open and vulnerable and give us the background. So thank you for that.
For sure. I would love to just share maybe chronologically what happens, but looking back on it, I feel that it was really all meant to be, that all the things that occurred, even though they were very challenging, led me to this spot. Before I just share a little bit of my background, I think that I do believe that there is this universal force of goodness in the world. Some people feel that it's quantum physics, the butterfly effect, and that no matter what happens, I do think that there's this force that for my entire life has gently pushed me forward. Even if sometimes the things were very difficult or painful, I feel like everything was for the best. And so I grew up on the East Coast. I'm from New Jersey. I went to college in Connecticut, and I lived and worked in New York City and Manhattan for almost my entire career. So over 10 years. Currently, right now, like you, I live on the West Coast. My husband's family is from LA. And when I was pregnant with my first child, we moved to LA. So it's been great to be on the East Coast and the West Coast and all of these things. Just the shortest version of my story that I think would be helpful for other people is when I was 12 years old, my 42-year-old dad passed away suddenly. And for anyone who's lost anyone in their immediate family, they know that that's very challenging. And something that was positive that came from it was my brother Daniel, my mom and I were still so close, even after that loss, just the three of us, truly, truly so close. And I go through middle school, I go through high school, I go to college at Fairfield University. And at that point, you feel like a sense of protection where, oh, nothing else is really going to happen that's bad because we already lost someone in our immediate family. And so when my brother Daniel also passed away suddenly at the age of 17, that was very, very unique and very challenging because it was like the second time. And I think that we all have things in our life where it might not be loss, but that you had something happen to you repeatedly more than one time. And that's very tricky. And why it was unique is that usually if someone loses an immediate family member, it's one time. And it's when you lose someone you love, you don't know the process of actually how many years it takes for you to get over that. You're kind of naive, right? You don't know that every holiday or every birthday or all the emotions. But when my brother passed away, it was very tricky because Colleen, who's my mom, and I already knew that this is a multi-layered, many years, especially to lose a child versus an adult. We knew that this was going to take a really long time. Also, just with COVID and everything, people know that sudden loss is very intense. You have no chance to say goodbye. There's no real closure. And so those two things led to this moment where the process became full circle. So when you have that kind of loss, and I think anybody has many different types of things that happen, eventually you can connect it to something that you're passionate about or your purpose. And so kind of the moment where a little bit of that changed, Kelly, was my mom, who, people who believe in like how the mind-body connection is real, ended up getting 2 benign brain tumors. And some people would say that there were 2 because she had 2 major losses in her life. That's the metaphysical aspect of that perspective. And she is 100% amazing now. She's the CFO of my company. We have 90 employees at MaryRuth Organics. But there was that moment when, and this is when I really started to get into health and wellness, where she had to have those surgeries. It was a difficult process where there's only like a few amazing neurosurgeons in the country that can remove tumors from brain stems. And so people have tumors all over their body, but the brain is really tricky. And so she, with her second surgery, it kind of left her paralyzed on one side of her body, and she had to spend almost a year learning to walk again. And that's where all the seed level of really wanting to learn about health and wellness came to be. Okay, what is gluten-free? What is dairy-free? What can we do with food? I went to, after college, I went to Hippocrates Health Institute in Florida. I did their health educator program. That was really like those moments led up to, okay, we all agree we care about health and wellness. Let's do everything we can. Have had a lot of amazing mentors along the way, especially in New York City. So many amazing doctors, naturopaths, functional medicine doctors. And I think the final moment of the story where you can now look at MaryRuth Organics and our team and all of the supplements that we share with families and people. We're a very mission-driven company, was this moment like, okay, now we're into health and wellness. And then another very painful thing happened, Kelly, that allowed me as a girl in my 20s to really learn about business and financial freedom and financial stability. One of the hardest things was the reason why today we have a mission-driven company that is profitable. It's difficult in the VMS space. to grow something with no outside funding, no help. And we own 100% of our company. And the most painful thing for all the listeners, that was just really pressuring me to become something I was not before. And I'm so happy that I was squeezed under that pressure. There was kind of up to that point of losing my dad, losing my brother, my mom going through recovering and learning to walk again. And she's made a full recovery. Was right at that moment, I was very spoiled. My dad was a lawyer and my mom had a lumber company that was his. So after he passed away, she took it over. And so all those things are happening to me, but financially we're very stable. So, that's where you're spoiled. Maybe you don't understand the value of hard work or perseverance or earning something, creating something on your own. And then this magical universe puts me in this position. It's like the perfect moment when all the stars were aligned. Lehman Brothers and the housing market crashes. And overnight, we lose literally pretty much everything, because at that point, people stopped building houses. And you can't sell lumber if nobody's building houses and the housing market is in decline. And so it was this synergy of, my mom has these 6 lumber yards. She has 300 employees. It was making $89 million in revenue, and the housing market crashes. And by the time you have to, and it was such a painful process. I remember the day she called me and told me, I only have $100,000 for payroll. This is over, and that feeling of all the people she's so close to, she built this company with. And that was happening during my developmental years, right? Let's say I'm spoiled. I'm watching this company. I know all the employees. I've grown up around it. Even before my brother passed away, he would, intern there and like shovel, all those things. And then you're watching your own mom go through this process, and she didn't file for bankruptcy. She did all the right things where you liquidate the company, you pay off the vendors, but those are my developmental years. So I'm watching the process, like how you build something, how you lose something, so that on the flip side, 8 years later, we don't make those same mistakes. And after all of that happened, it left Colleen and I, my mom and I, just the two of us, because my dad and my brother were not there any longer, in $700,000 debt. And a lot of people say, like, what do you mean $700,000 debt? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, what does that even mean? But when you are selling lumberyard properties, you've secured the business with your own, my mom made mistakes where she's personally guaranteeing parts of our life with the business. And after all of that, there was this $700,000 that was not really my debt, but it's just me and my mom. So technically,
yeah, you gotta like stand up and help her out.
Technically, that's what's happening. And so this is the best thing that ever happened to me. I am only here right now with my company. My 90 employees were so close with a mission-driven business because of that. And I spent 8 years getting out of that debt. And is it okay if I share like how I got out of the debt?
I think it's really important. I think there are so many people, especially after COVID, dealing with their own debt, feeling completely overwhelmed, not knowing how to deal with it, causing it, that kind of financial stress can cause depression, anxiety, sleepless nights. It perpetuates illness. Let's talk about it. Let's give people the details on how to do that, because that's the tangible stuff. And people are like, oh yeah, I just got out of debt. And it's like, well, how did you do that?
Thank you so much. And I'm extremely passionate about this topic. Financial stability it's a part of health. It's a part of health and wellness. It affects your mind. It affects every choice that you make. And I think sometimes people are afraid to discuss it or talk about it. And it is my greatest joy to just share a little bit of how I practically withstood truly 7 years of never giving up and chipping away at it. And so by sharing just a couple tips, I think I hope that other people will feel like they can do it too, because $700,000 is a huge amount of money to in your 20s where, like I said before, right? I've been spoiled my whole life. How am I going to deal with this? And so the first thing that was very powerful for me was believing in myself. I think that self-esteem comes from saying you're going to do something, even if it's difficult. When you do it, when you break down a very small wall in your life, you break down one little micro action, you get a little bit more self-esteem. And so I personally feel, and I talk about this in our team building sessions with my employees and human resources, I feel like I have a lot of self-esteem only because it's a relationship with myself. And I had these things I had to do every day for years, like perseverance, but also healing through repetition, do the same thing over and over and over and over again, knowing that I'm going to take down this debt eventually. And every day by doing what I said I was going to do, I every day built like a little more self-esteem and a little more certainty that I will get myself out of this. And my mom at the time, we joke about it, but my mom definitely didn't think we were ever going to get out of this situation ever. And I would, in New York City, I had an apartment on like the 8th floor in a building and she had one on like the 14th floor. So I was paying like her rent, my rent, and my office rent. So we had an office on 47th and 3rd for my business that was called Regis, which is like WeWorks. Mm-hmm. So we have 3 rents. And now, again, my business model of getting out of debt can be broken down. Like if someone has $20,000 in debt, they can do, even though mine seems like, okay, that's crazy, you can still do the same concepts with a smaller amount of debt.
Right.
And so I knew the first step was like, I knew that no one is going to help me with this, only me.
Yeah.
Also, sometimes people are in relationships, so they want to blame the other person. And I think the best way is to be the cause and not the effect. Even if you're in a relationship and you have conversations that are tricky about money, the best thing you can do is rely 100% first on yourself. And then through doing the process every day, I think around you, people, your spouse, your partner may come more on board. But that was the first key. It was like, my mom's not going to help me. No one's going to help me. I got to do this 100%. Also, I need to interject something before I get to the really amazing tips about how I got out of debt. There was a moment along that 7-year journey. This is probably one of, Kelly, the things I'm the most appreciative of in my whole life. There was a moment in that 7-year journey. Remember, in New York City, in the group of friends that I grew up in, also I'm around a lot of people who have parents who are funding their businesses or funding their operation, and I didn't talk about my debt with other people at all. But I was in a group of friends where there's finance guys, and I love finance guys, but I'm just being direct for authenticity on the podcast.
I love it. Give me the real deal. New York finance scene.
Thank you, Kelly. So there's a moment in this 7-year journey where there was someone who, even my husband today, says we all knew that this guy adored me. And we all knew at this moment when I was dating my husband who had $5,000 to his name. Okay, literally, and when we got married, I took that $5,000 and put it towards our debt. But literally, my husband has $5,000 to his name, and I'm in love with him. Like we have the same birthday, same year, we're the same person. I would never trade him for anyone in the world. So here we are in the middle of getting out of debt. There's this moment. We're all in the same group of friends. My husband at the time was just my boyfriend. We're laughing because we know this guy in our group of friends definitely wants to just marry me and would take away my debt in 2 seconds flat.
Yeah.
This is what's so powerful about being the cause and not the effect. If I had decided to marry that guy because he has millions of dollars,
Yeah.
I would not have MaryRuth Organics today.
You would not have your passion. You would not have your business. You would not have your confidence. You would not have the lessons.
I
You would not have your
literally not
children.
have anything.
I have full body chills. I have full body chills because these are the decisions. These are the pressures in people's young 20s, the life experiences where you have the choice to get up and be the person who makes the change in your life. Those micro actions that you're talking about, that's what people, they have these big ideas, these big dreams. And if you think about that, finishing that marathon and running 20 some miles and your legs falling under you, like that's stressful to think about. There's too much anxiety to get to the end of that, but to get up and say, I'm going to run a quarter of a mile today. And then tomorrow I'm going to run a half a mile. And then you're going to be like, I can run a half a mile. Your life is this story is what people need to realize. This is how big things happen. They happen with people who realize their worth, build their confidence through action, and then get to the end of the marathon and go, oh, wow, I just ran a marathon. Oh, wow, I just built a mission-driven company with 90 employees. I pulled my family out of almost $1 million worth of debt, and I could have just married a guy to fix it for me.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Because when I look at that can be transferred to all of your listeners' lives. Like everyone has like this thing, this choice where they know like deep down, this is not the right thing, but it's so tricky, right? There's so many pressures. And on my wedding day, my friend Erin, she made my wedding dress. My husband borrowed a suit. Like I had $150 ring that used to give me like a rash. I had no wedding cake. And my mom, by the way, my mom is 100% like the closest human to me. But now that I've had children, I know why she said this on my wedding day, because I know how life is so intense. But on my wedding day, she just kind of gave me a hug and she was like, are you sure? Are you sure this is what you really want to do? And I think she was just so paralyzed because there was still so much debt. She knew I was about to marry this person. By the way, she and David are closer than me. Like they're like two peas in a pod, these two. But I can see that she also had that fear, right? And I get it. She was afraid I would get married. We're still in debt. What if I get pregnant? What if? Yeah. But now, even though it was so many years, the three of us, like sometimes we're just driving in the car and the three of us are just like, it's like euphoria because we did it. We did that together. We went through that process together. And the real recipe of how I want to just share, just really simply, like how someone I believe can get out of debt is the following. Of course, you want to educate yourself, read as many books as you can, listen to as many podcasts on financial stability. These tools are so energetically positive. But the real thing I just want to empower everyone is that every single person listening has a daily routine that works best for them. If they take even 5 minutes to kind of sit with themselves, they know what the routine looks like, and then they know how to make the routine a little bit better. I had to make some choices like, I have so much debt, I need to have competitive edge over every scenario. And for me, a practical way I began the process of chipping away from 2013, all those years forward, was making like these little micro changes that someone could be like, well, how did you get out of $700,000 in debt? Well, I didn't drink any more alcohol ever. Yeah. So, but by the way, I'm not saying to anyone listening, don't drink alcohol. But for me, I knew the stakes are so high right now. I have to enroll a certain number of people in my private practice. This was long before I had products. I had needed to basically my program was 12 sessions for 12 weeks for $2,860 in New York City. and I needed to make about $40,000 or $50,000 a month. And I was working almost 6.5 days a week, from like seeing people from like 7 to almost the 9 o'clock slot was the last slot. I had some miscarriages at work, 2013, 2014. But I created a routine for me that I knew would support all of the pressure, meaning long hours of working, but also mentally. And that is also, and by the way, we don't need to talk about the book at all, but in the book, that is a lot of what I taught in my private practice, but also those were things that I was doing to get my competitive edge. And people think like, no. Chewing your food cannot be related to getting out of debt. But that's what I did. Like I drank half my body weight in ounces of water. I chewed my food. I did liquids to lunch. I did portion control. I organized my pantry and my fridge so I wouldn't have food waste. I could budget my groceries better. I would try to sleep. I would leave the party an hour early because that 1 extra hour of sleep, I knew that I had a little bit more pressure from all my debt and I needed to, right? Every little action, going to bed on time for 7 years, probably. Those things is how the rest unfolded. So you don't need like this master plan of how to actually financially get out of debt. What I believe is that if you are really honest with yourself, you make a routine, even when your mind doesn't want to do the routine, you execute the routine, you will move forward and the path will unfold. As long as you're taking care of yourself first, the path's going to unfold and all the solutions will come how you will actually practically get out of debt. That is what I think is the best formula, is that if you take care of yourself, you will be in a spot where you have more energy and you alone, not someone coming to get you out of your problems. You will find the solutions because everyone knows what's best for them. And so mine was just like, I signed up all the people for a couple of years. We were doing liquids to lunch. My client said, oh, we love liquids to lunch, but we're so nauseous. Capsules just make us so nauseous. I said, okay, let me make a liquid vitamin that doesn't have sugar. At the time, all the liquid vitamins had sugar. I had like only enough money to buy 90 bottles, which is also for custom blend in manufacturing, also unheard of. I had to call around for like 6 months. I had to beg a manufacturer. I was living in New York City, in California. I said, I promise, I swear, please, if you just make the custom blend and ship 90 bottles to my 650 square foot apartment in New York. Literally, my husband's like sleeping on a mattress on the floor. I promise you someday I'm going to be your biggest account. And I was, and it doesn't have to unfold that way. The point was just that I didn't give up until someone believed in me enough. My husband made the label. We printed it. We emailed it to the manufacturer. They put it on the bottle and I sold it from my office. And then basically there was a miracle. And the miracle was, Kelly, that this was before Amazon was popular. And I feel like this was the moment, if you believe in God or the creator or a universal force of goodness, this was the moment that the universe said, I'm going to give you some really positive feedback for the choice you made when you said no to the guy who could take away your debt. You married someone you love because you love him. The moment where I feel like I got this positive feedback from the universe was just by chance, I put 20 bottles on Amazon. And remember, this was before Amazon was cool because I had been on an airplane and some guy was like sitting next to my husband. Some guy was like, oh, what do you do? And I said something like, I sell vitamins on Amazon. And my husband elbowed me so hard. He was like, don't tell people you sell vitamins on Amazon. That's just for furniture. And so it wasn't cool then.
Yeah.
But because it was sugar-free, the algorithm allowed me to go to the first page. And I was only selling like 10 bottles a day. But I remember like crying so hard when I sold 10 bottles because it was almost $300. And usually I had to work 1 hour to make $290. And again, all of this is scalable to whatever people's unique. My story is not necessarily everyone else's story, but the point is, there was that moment. I worked so hard. I was patient, and I didn't look for, of course we want to ask for help, but I knew this is my problem. And no matter how much I want to blame someone else, I need to deal with this. And so that was just the beginning of many, 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 many choices that just go back to how I took care of myself. And that gave me the strength to deal with this very uncomfortable problem.
Well, I want to just highlight some of the things that you said here, because I think it's important for people when they're dealing with stress to create security, safety, and clarity in their life. And that's exactly what you did. And when you talk about taking care of yourself, whether it's the rituals you had of liquids till lunch and proper sleep hygiene and preparing your meals and portioning them out so you knew how much it cost, that control was creating a form of safety and security in your life that you didn't have with the massive amount of debt that you had. And that, when you think about that massive amount of debt and dealing with the amount of adrenaline and cortisol that your body was probably flooded with, that those type of situations are what can be the catalyst to autoimmune diseases, to physical body breakdown. Like, you were in a very vulnerable place physically. Had you not taken care of yourself, I could only imagine what your physical body would be dealing with. That manifestation of that stress in your human body is overwhelming for me to even think about. I think about taking care of my family as the breadwinner and, being responsible for my husband and my children and purchasing our first home and financing all my protein powder. I think about all of that. Had I had to do that on top of $700,000 worth of debt, I would be a blubbering mess of tears. And so, but everyone has their $700,000 worth of debt.
Yeah.
Everyone has their story. Everyone has whether it's a divorce, a loss, and what these micro changes and these little rituals and you basically brick by brick built this wellness foundation in your life to support you not breaking down physically. And that is so, so important for people listening, because they have big ideas to start businesses. They have big ideas to change their life. And there are things that we all know intuitively, or you hear that little voice in your head that's like, you should do that. You should do that. And if you aren't clear-headed to do it, and you're boozing and you're not sleeping well and you're waking up groggy, or if you're not boozing and you're pounding a bunch of processed foods, all of it's going to affect the outcome. And you're not going to feel good about yourself waking up feeling positive, like, I can handle this. And your body, you need to take care of yourself to be able to handle all that life is going to throw at you. And you're proof that you can do it. And you're proof that you can come out the other end in a euphoric state with the people you love and build the life you love. I think that is so powerful, MaryRuth. It's such a beautiful story, and you have a beautiful brand because of it.
Thank you so much. I think what you said was so amazing, even for me to hear, because you're right. Like, for me, it gave me so much safety. And I desperately, I think, needed that. And so I could always rely on that. And that gave me so much comfort so that I can move forward. And
be really proud of yourself.
Thank you so much. There was even, like, when you were talking, I thought of like this flash in my mind. I thought of, like, I remember this day in New York. I hadn't paid my rent in 5 months. And I ran into the broker who sold me the listing, or rented me the apartment. And that's such a humbling experience, And he said, oh, the landlord told me that you're going to give him the whole payment this month. And I just that stuff is so humbling, you living so many, when you were talking, and I remember the feeling of walking away from that broker. And I did pay my rent after 5 months. I paid all of it in one lump sum. But the point was that the only way I could walk away and feel good and keep moving forward, keep doing everything, was because I would go back to all those things. It's even as simple as, for sure, your amazing smoothie. It's that represents to me. Like when I am like, okay, I'm going to go on Kelly's podcast. I'm so excited. Her Fab Four smoothie. Like for me, sometimes the way that I see things are like that smoothie was something that is totally connected to financial freedom. I see those things that way through my filter. And that has really helped a lot along the way.
Well, you know what? We all just need tools. We need tools that we're like, okay, we need to habit stack. We need tools. We need structure. And it is like a toddler. Like I think about my kids, like my kids want to know what's going on, and Dash wants to know what's going on in the day. Hey, bud, here's the plan for the day. We're going to have breakfast. You're going to get to Scoot. Then, we're going to you're going to have a play date with Quinn. Then you're going to go down for nap. And when you get up for nap, it's Mommy Bash's special time. And then you're going to be my sous chef, and we're going to make dinner. And then he takes a deep breath. He likes to know what's going on.
It's like the best. I always say structure creates freedom. The people with the most structure have the most freedom. Everyone just wants, everyone wants to go with the flow and have freedom and be free. But I always say that structure creates freedom. And that's what I feel when you just described your whole routine with your children. I feel that they love that. My children love that too. And it also makes me feel good. And then in the end, you kind of have some freedom because you know what to expect.
Well, I think we also need to think about what is freedom. Because if you're a business owner or you're dealing with a massive amount of debt and you're like, I want to go with the flow. And like, in my life, my husband loves to surf. And so he may just be like, 4:30 on a Tuesday. Hey, let's run to the beach. Let's get a surf session in. Let's play in the sand. And if I don't have the structure that says, hey, I'm going to email these people back in this period these hours of the day in the morning, and I'm going to do this stuff that's going to create all this mental noise in my brain, then I might be able to go to the beach at 4:30, but I'm not free there. I'm in my head about the email. And I know that when I put my kids down for bed, I am either going to go to sleep restless because I'm going to have to do it the next day, or I'm just going to buck up, go to my office and send the email. So that structure that you're talking about, that safety and structure is actually what's allowing you to have freedom in the free space.
You are the first person in my life. I adore you so much. You literally are like the first person who articulated that back to me in the greatest way possible. That's what I always feel is that when somebody asks, can we go to the beach to surf right now in an impromptu way? Because you kind of know where you can move stuff around, you can go and you can enjoy it. And you just said that so well.
Well, I mean, it's going back to this amazing story of yours. Like I love an entrepreneurial story where it's a story of resilience. It's a story of pulling yourself up by your own bootstraps, and you're proof in the pudding that we can do it. And there are women out there who have, like I said, business ideas. There are moms that aren't feeling free because they don't have the structure, and maybe that's what they need, or maybe it is the tools, these micro adjustments that you share in your book, Liquids Till Lunch. I know that that's coming out. Congratulations on an amazing business and also being now an author. But these are the tools that it doesn't have to be rocket science. It has to be a few things that make you feel safe and secure that you do every day. Then all of a sudden you have this confidence, and then you can start applying that confidence to the places in your life that need change.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Kelly. It's been so amazing.
This has been awesome. Before we leave people, I want you to give a few of your tips from Liquids Till Lunch, things that really worked well for you, and a few of your favorite, kind of like the hero supplements for MaryRuth Organics.
I think the greatest simple takeaway for people just on Liquids Till Lunch, and I know that you'll appreciate this, is it's just a way to help you make a routine that you adore within a 24-hour period. So I used to always just draw a circle whenever I would explain like Liquids Till Lunch. I would just draw a circle for my private clients, and I would say, okay, from the time you wake up until 12 noon, you will do, Liquids Till Lunch. You could have your Fab Four smoothie, and I would just share that it's so amazing because liquids, smoothies, green juice, tea, water, veggie broth, they're kind of pre-digested nutrition. They're already broken down. You already know all of this. But I would pair it with that will allow you to have more energy throughout the day to do the things you really love. Because sometimes when you have a solid food breakfast and you have to chew it and you have to break it down, your body then has to take energy away from your personality and your brain to digest your solid food breakfast. And then you don't necessarily have cumulatively the compound effect over the course of 365 days, right? Let's put 365 Fab Four smoothies in a room. And this is how the compound effect is also how you get out of debt, like saving $2 over 365 days. Same thing. If you, on the other side, did standard solid food breakfast, there's nothing wrong with that. If you love it and adore it, you could do it sometimes, you could do it all the time, whatever works best for the person. But 365 breakfasts in a pile on the living room over the course of a year. And if you want to create more energy in your life, healing, who doesn't want more energy? Usually everybody just wants more energy.
Yeah.
You would want to pick the liquid breakfast versus a solid food breakfast, just to give yourself a little bit of a competitive edge to do the things you love. And then the rest of the book is all about building the routine. So it's just free and accessible things that anyone can do. So the whole book you could do, God forbid, if you're in jail. You can do it if you have no money at all. It's just like chew your food, water, sunshine, exercise, just broken down into affordable, accessible things. And then the person would just figure out in the routine, like I say to all of my team at MaryRuth Organics, okay, where can you do your 15 minutes of sunshine every day? Where can you like pencil it into that circle? So it's just about making routines. And then the closing comment is we have over 100 products, but the beauty of a mission-driven business is the very first 2 products I ever made are still the number 1 best-selling products. And it's because the seed level I was always caring about what would the person need, like the best bang for their buck. So the liquid morning multivitamin in raspberry is for ages 2 years old and up. It's for men and women. And that product is full spectrum. So it has a little bit of everything that someone would need to change their blood work. Obviously check with your doctor. And that's so interesting that was the first product made. It's still by far the best selling. And one fun fact to close on is liquid vitamins are 98% bioavailable and absorbable. So you could even put a liquid vitamin in your smoothie, but pills and capsules are only 3 to 21% bioavailable and absorbable. So just going along with all that liquids theme, it's been such a pleasure and such an honor. Thank you for inviting me to share my story. And I 100% loved speaking with you. Everything that you say, every single word you said is exactly things that I feel so passionate about. And it's just amazing to meet someone who also agrees on so many of those topics.
Oh, I bow at your altar. Like you, these are the stories. it makes me like so passionate and energized. I'm like, what can I do? How can I do better? Like, like I just get really, and I'm excited for the listeners. Like, you're a hero. You're a mama superhero that's built an amazing business that's taking care of your family, all the families that work for you, and is focused on, a mission-driven company focused on the good of all these other families out there that need your products for health and wellness. And just thank you for all that you do. And thank you for sharing your story. I'm excited for this podcast to go live. I'm excited for our listeners. And it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you, MaryRuth.
Really, take care. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Be Well by Kelly. Please subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Learn more at BeWellByKelly.com and follow me on Instagram at BeWellByKelly. I would love if you picked up my books, Body Love and Body Love Every Day. They're sold on Amazon and at all major booksellers.